Today I want to show you how to find the right guy in a sea of 1 billion men. So what do you have to do to attract the right man? What do you have to do in order to not just attract him, but also find him in the first place? And when it comes to you attracting the right man, you always have to ask yourself one question. It's a very simple question, but it is a question that I know from my experience a lot of women don't ask themselves. And of course, a lot of men also don't ask themselves this question when it comes to meeting women. But the Get Him Keep Him podcast is for women who want to meet high quality men. Not some crazy loser who lives with his parents in his basement, but actually high quality men. And when it comes to meeting these guys, they are hanging out in environments that the guys that you don't want to date are usually not hanging out in. So for example, if you want to find a man who is successful, a man who is at the same time also fit, who works out, who takes care of his health, you might want to join one of the most expensive gyms in your neighborhood or in your city, because that's where these guys hang out. They don't go to the cheapest gyms. And same is true if you want to meet a man who, for example, is interested in books. You then want to join a book club and then meet a man there. Or, very simple example, and yes, often also overused, but if you want to attract a successful man who's into playing golf, you join a golf club. It's really that simple. You go where your target audience is. I mean, imagine if suddenly I would start talking about fishing here at the Get Him Keep Him podcast. The next episode would be, that's how you fish. I mean, I have no idea about fishing. I just used it as an example. But I would mention, and that's how you fish and you need this and this material. That would not interest you, most likely. I mean, maybe one woman who's listening would be like, oh yeah, actually, I love fishing. So that could happen, of course. But I would not be talking to my target audience. I would not be talking to my audience who I want to reach with this podcast, which is my goal of helping women to improve their dating life. And the same is true if you want to meet the right guy. You have to ask yourself, what kind of target audience do I want to attract? What kind of man do I want to attract? And then ask yourself, where does this target audience, aka this type of guy, hang out? Where can I find this man? Where can I meet this man? How can I meet this man? I mean, most of my coaching clients are very accomplished women. They're very successful women, and they are either running their own businesses or they have climbed the corporate ladder to a point where they can confidently say, I made it, I'm very successful. And you already know this from a business perspective. You already know that you have to reach the right people with your advertising in order for them to be attracted to the product that you're selling. And I don't mean this in a demeaning way, but on the dating market, we are the product. In the same way as I'm the product for my target audience in regards to dating, you are the product for your target audience in regards to dating. And that's why it's so important to ask yourself, where do I actually find the man that I'm interested in? Because if you only focus on online dating, and I don't say that online dating is bad, but if you only focus on online dating and you only focus on meeting men in situations where it randomly happens, then you're not taking full advantage of all the possibilities and all the opportunities that are out there for you to meet the right man. But if you instead say, I actually want to meet that kind of guy, and now I have to ask myself, where is this guy hanging out? What kind of social circles does this guy frequent? What kind of situations? Where can I find this man? Where is he? And you then put yourself in these situations. You will meet higher quality men. I mean, one of the simplest things you can do is when you, for example, go shopping for groceries yes, it might take you a little bit longer to drive there, but to go to a supermarket in the richest neighborhood, how much more likely is it for you to meet a successful man there than if you, for example, go to a supermarket or a convenience store in the poorest neighborhood in your city? It doesn't matter in which neighborhood you're living, but you need to find ways to connect with your, target audience, which in this case are successful men. Of course, other qualities are also important, but if you want a man from a certain caliber, then you need to go in these environments where these men can be found. And then know who you are and know your core values and your non-negotiables. This is so incredibly important. You need to understand that you are worthy of meeting the right man, that you do not have to settle for the wrong type of guy. And on top of that, you should also be writing down your, you can say, non-negotiable factors that you absolutely must have in a relationship or that you don't want to have. So if your last boyfriend, for example, was emotionally abusive, then a non-negotiable would be to be in a relationship with a man who is not emotionally abusive. But of course, this exercise can also be used for aspects that are not as, let's say, severe as emotional abuse. Let's say you want a man who, and I wouldn't really go down this path of him having a certain height or a certain hair color, because I had so many coaching clients who in the first discovery call before they decided to join the Love Magnet coaching program, which is, by the way, my 8-week coaching program for every woman who wants to become a magnet for love, and which you can find out more about by clicking on the first link in the description or by going to gethimkeephim.com/magnet. And I had so many coaching clients who wrote down these non-negotiables from a place of, this is the way he looks, this is how tall he is, and in the end, they then ended up dating men who didn't look at all like that, and they were super happy. And I sometimes then joked about, hey, this guy doesn't really have the hair color you wanted. And the answer is always, oh, I don't care, I'm so in love with him. So I wouldn't really use it in this more superficial way, because if you meet the right guy, then you know that he's the right guy and the attraction is there. But I would instead write down values that you want him to have, certain behaviors that you want him to have, or certain behaviors that you don't want him to have. For example, for me it was important that my girlfriend does not drink alcohol, because I don't drink alcohol. And I know that's a very extreme point of view. I know that for a lot of people this would be way too weird, but I found the right woman. A woman who, of course, she's the right woman in so many different ways, but a woman who doesn't drink alcohol in the same way as I don't drink alcohol. So what are your non-negotiables? And you find the right guy in a sea of a billion men only if you communicate these non-negotiables in a confident way. And if you not just communicate them to him, but you actually communicate them to yourself, and you respect yourself so much that you don't end up in a relationship with a man who is not compatible with you, who has not the values that you want him to have, who has not the behavior, or who doesn't show the behavior that you want him to show. You need, in this situation, the confidence to have boundaries, to know what you want, know what you don't want, know what you don't accept in a relationship. And this makes it so much more likely for you that you find the right guy. Will it be the first guy that you go on a date with? Maybe not, most likely not. But eventually you will meet the right man with this approach. And then, during this time, remember that you also want to a certain extent, trust your intuition. Because so many women who I've talked to in coaching sessions, and of course also women who joined my coaching program, they've told me that when they look back at the abusive relationships they had, that yes, there were so many red flags. They just ignored them because they put this guy on the pedestal, and they did what we all do as human beings when we're attracted to somebody. We fill in the blanks. We just pretend, oh yeah, this guy is handsome, or this guy is successful, or I'm attracted to this guy, and he must be kind, he must be loving. We human beings, we all do that, no matter if we're men or women. We fill in the blanks. We turn the person that we're attracted to into this ideal, no matter if he in some way or another fulfills this ideal, but we all do it, and you need to be consciously aware of that. You need to become consciously aware of that, and to then follow the principle of hire slow and fire fast. And what that means is that you take your time to get to know him. You, yes, also wait until you're intimate with him, at least I would suggest it. And this is also something that we talk about in one coaching session of the Love Magnet coaching program, where I share my perfect intimacy timeline with you. And I will also, of course, share with you how you can wrap him around your finger and how you can get him to a point where he's so in love with you that he wants to propose to you, but that will then happen later. You need to give yourself the permission to first get to know him, on a deep emotional level, and then once you got to know him on a deep emotional level, and you can then judge him in this perspective and say, that guy's actually right for me, that guy has the qualities I want, that guy has the values I want, he treats me the right way, then it's way more likely for you to find the right man than if you, for example, are not investing this time and not investing this patience to truly get to know him. And that's how you find the right guy in a sea of 1 billion men. And if you want to find out more about my 8-week coaching program, then you can go to gethimkeephim.com/magnet. And if there's anything specific you want to share with me, if you want to talk about something very specific that you're struggling with, then I'm also happy to help you in an individual coaching session, which you can find out more about by going to gethimkeephim.com/coaching or by clicking on the second link in the description.